and welcome to another video tutorial. Today I wanted to cover foreshortening, and I'll do that in terms of figures since we've been covering figures lately. Foreshortening is the act of making something bigger that's closer to you and something smaller that's further away. That's the gist of it, in my opinion, anywhere, or from what I know. I'm going to make it really simple, or try to make it as simple as possible, because a lot of people get tripped up on this. So the first things first, we've got to remember that our normal figure size is 7 heads tall. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a half. Just like that, right? And then we can just draw our figure from here. Chest is here. Thinnest part is there, widest part is there, crotch is there, leg comes here, and bottom of the feet, shoulders about a third between, third on number 2 head, elbows come to where here is, hands come to about here, and we've got our figure, correct? Right? So that's nice and easy. What happens if we want to make this hand maybe come forward, or if we want to make this foot come forward, or this foot go back? That's where we start to run into trouble, because we can't obey these laws, but we can use them to figure out how they work. So, before we go into drawing the figure in foreshortening, first, there's just like a little bit of perspective. So if you follow my 1-point perspective tutorials, if you haven't, just do some of those exercises so that you get that in your head. But the essential idea is you want to be able to know your perspective lines before you start this, because that'll make it a lot easier. So if you were to draw a box, and this is where our figure would fit in, you can then just draw lines out, and then another line out. And then that will give you a little baseline to work with. So say you wanted the middle of your figure to be somewhere halfway here. You wanted the foot to be here, and you wanted the back foot to be here. The front foot would be bigger, the back foot would be smaller. So I'm gonna just start roughly drawing out these perspective lines. You don't have to constrain yourself to them. They're just there to help you figure out how big something needs to be, how small something needs to be. So to start with, let's draw a head, and that will be our standard measurement. So we'll use the middle as a standard measurement, and we'll go from there. So the easiest way to do this to start with is to draw the same idea. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a half. All right, and this is where the bottom of the foot should be. This is the middle. So what we can do is if we're keeping the person right in the middle, if this is where the head is, we can keep the torso basically in the center. So from here, 1 to 3rd head down, we can just make that the middle. Make that chest line, bring the neck down, have shoulders here. This shoulder will be forward, this shoulder will be back. Just that's how people's bodies work, basically. And then what we're gonna do is it doesn't have to be perfect usually. If you're just going for like a comical style, if you're going for an exact style, then you need to use your reference and you need to kind of measure exactly. But if you're just going for something a little bit simpler, I want to say that this person is standing in a stance. We'll call it a stance. So what we can do is, to make our lives easier, is instead of worrying so much about these measurements, as long as certain ones are okay, so the torso part is okay all the way up to the groin area, now here's where it gets a little bit different. So I'm rambling a bit here, and I'll just show you. You want to draw the foot as big as you can, like taking up this much space to start with. Once you get better at it, you can reduce it and make it more realistic if you want, or you can keep the exaggerated style. So what we can do is, we know the knee is about here, right? So what we can do is, as long as it's this length, but a little bit bigger, So this length a little bit bigger, so we can make it even larger here. And the foot is normally about this size, but because it's closer to us, we're going to make it a lot bigger. It's going to be even bigger than the head in essence. So we just draw this, and then this, and then we can draw the foot like this. And then when you're drawing the foot behind it, that foot is going to be smaller, much smaller than this foot, about like 1/10 of the size, or just a lot smaller, so that we have perspective. So then we can draw the buttocks here, then draw this leg going off into the distance. And so this part can be in much less detail. This part has to be in greater detail. So maybe you have to draw the foot a little bit. I'm just drawing very rough, and like so. And I'm trying to do this quickly, but I hope you get the idea. So if we have these perspective lines, it can make our lives a lot easier. You can do it without it. It just makes it a little bit harder. So if we wanted to draw the hand, maybe, we would draw the hand like this. So you can start with the body part first if you want, or you can draw the lines leading up to it. So we know the elbow's here, but the elbow is going to be much shorter comparatively, because we're going to see it at an angle, in a perspective angle. Actually, there is more to this, like, to explain, but I'm just trying to go through it quickly, or just show you, and then maybe you can pick up by just watching. And then you can draw the hand like this, and it'll be nice and big, and then the elbow behind will be nice and small. Okay? Yeah, that's like a drawing exemplar of it. The basic idea, or what you want to think about, is anything that's closer to you, you want to make it bigger. Anything that's further away, you want to make it smaller. The harder part here is figuring out how long the arm should be. And your general rule should be that if you're foreshortened, you want to make the arm, which is normally this long, you want to make that much, much shorter because you're coming into perspective. So this distance should be shorter than this. And I know I said that it should be about here, and this one I was wrong, sorry. So this distance from the groin to the knee should be a lot shorter than the normal distance. So this is the normal distance. This should be a lot shorter than that, depending. And sometimes you can only figure that out as you go. So just keep practicing and practicing and practicing, and you'll get the general idea. This is a very rough way of me showing you how to do it. Maybe in a later example I can show you just on a drawing itself. But the general idea is, so I'll just reiterate. This distance here should be shorter than this distance here, which is the normal standard. So the distance from the elbow should be a lot shorter. Same with this one, because it's further away. And the easiest way to comprehend this is just to draw a box around it with perspective lines. And that will usually get your brain working in more of a perspective manner than a 2D manner. So this is more of a 2D idea. This will bring it into a 3D idea. And if you can constrain it, it makes it even easier for you. And sometimes you don't even have to worry about the proportions, because what foreshortening will do, or dramatic perspective will do, will kind of let you forgive certain aspects of super correct proportion. You can just play around with it. You can do more exaggerated things. You can have your character, basically, or whatever you're drawing, you can have them have a big fist, small elbow will come to here, arm will come to here, shoulders here, head is here, and then the head should follow the same rules, chest here, waist here, hips here, and then maybe big knee here. So this will be shorter than what it should be, and this here, and then we have the smaller. These parts don't have to be in detail. These parts have to be in greater detail, and that's how we create that dramatic effect with perspective. So have fun with this. Play with perspective first. Draw your figures, learn the distances, learn the proportions, and then you can use your knowledge of them to know that this should not be longer, and this should be shorter, this should be bigger, this should be smaller, all that sort of stuff. I hope this was clear. If it wasn't, just leave me a comment, or I'll try and make a much more in-depth one later on. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.